Right. Hello, good morning, and welcome, or good afternoon, depending on where you're at. We're just going to give everyone a little more, couple minutes or so to jump in here. Looks like we've got people joining, so sit tight. We will be getting started here shortly, and very excited to have our partners over at InflowCX today. So we'll just kind of sit tight for a couple more seconds, and then we will jump right into it.
Sure, it's
Couple
not
more
often that
jumping in here. Oh, go ahead.
I say it's not too often I get to be on a webinar with someone here in my state of Oregon. So I feel like
I know.
this is great, exciting.
Almost like we're local. I've had the I guess pleasure of joining a couple of your guys' webinars, and really excited to have you on today. So this is going to be great.
Yeah.
All right. A couple more jumping in here. Quick housekeeping. Any questions you have, feel free to use that Q&A within the toolbar there. Feel free to ask questions. We'll be getting to those as we can throughout. And if not, we will have some hopefully time at the end of this to answer any questions that have been posted. So feel free to use that. And I think, all right, let's jump into it. So thank you all for attending. Really excited to spend time with you today to talk about optimizing your number ownership with emerging AI and CX trends. We get a lot of inquiries from our current customers, and we are recording this session, so we will be sending out a copy afterwards. But we get a lot of questions from people who come to us. Once we get them authoritative ownership of their numbers, they say, now what? And here at NumHub, we've rebranded recently, if that might be news to some of you, but we specialize in giving that enterprise business and contact center authoritative ownership and control of their value numbering assets. There's all sorts of benefits to that. We won't go into that too much because I know a lot of you today are customers who have joined. So thank you for your business and your partnership. And just a few updates I wanted to share with you that we are launching here soon. So if you're a current Restboard customer, really exciting things coming. We are launching a new platform next week. So new UI, there'll be a lot of enhanced features coming out with some new feature releases as well. It's just going to make your experience so much better in the Restboard platform. Be on the lookout. We will be sending out email communication over the next few weeks. We're going to be hosting a series of webinars going through the new UI live, so we encourage you to jump on and join us if you can. And we'll also be available for trainings after that if needed in that new GUI. So exciting things to come, new look, enhanced experience. Also, we are now launching towards the end of October here our new fraud solution called Fraud Control. It's launching late October. Now within the Restboard platform, you will be able to set up monitoring for fraudulent use of your phone numbers or impersonators who might be spoofing your numbers. We'll be able to send you alerts and reporting on that to help mitigate and shut that down. And this will be huge for helping protect your brand and your customers who may be targeted by fraudsters who are spoofing numbers. And then one more exciting thing, we are now officially live with our branded calling ID solution for outbound calls. If any of your contact centers are making outbound calls, whether it be sales, marketing, scheduling, callback queues, highly encourage you to reach out. We can now deliver logo and intent of outbound phone calls to Samsung and iOS devices across the T-Mobile network. That was in beta for a little while. We've now officially launched, gone live as of yesterday. So be on the lookout for some more communication on that as well. But enough about us. Today we are joined by Mike Dolloff, CRO over at InflowCX and Amplix. Thank you, Mike, for being here. Just a quick kind of introduction to our partnership for those you are here. InflowCX has become a strategic partner of ours. We get a lot of questions from our customers saying, what do we do next? InflowCX has, created a huge reputation in this industry of being the experts in CX experience. So we rely on them on where we suggest customers are looking to on new technologies, emerging things to really improve and enhance their CX experience. So, Mike, thank you for being here. Maybe you could give everyone a kind of a quick rundown of InflowCX and who you guys are.
Sure. Yeah, and thanks for. I think it's been several years now we've worked together, and it's just such a perfect. So many customers. We've been helping customers often move to the cloud, right, as a kind of an underpinning part of their journey of their contact center and CX evolution. And oftentimes, I think one of the questions comes up all the time is about control, and like, why do I lose control? Where will I lose control? And we found ATL several years ago with customers who are like, this is so important, like my numbers, my toll free, like that's so vital. How does that get protected in these journeys? And so we've made the connection, and we've got lots of happy customers now. It's such an awesome company and awesome technology. So yeah, glad to be on. We work in the space of all things contact center, customer service, and CX, and we're really kind of in the consulting, guiding, helping implement and then kind of optimize that tech. So we're not a provider. We work with all the providers, all the names you know of, right? Everyone from NumHub to, the large CCaaS vendors and everything in between. That's the world we live in, and help customers kind of navigate that and get the most out of it. So that's the perspective I'll bring to the conversation today, is talking with, every day I've got multiple, my favorite part of every day is talking with customers, prospective customers on these initiatives and what they're doing and helping them through that journey. So that's the lens I'll bring to the conversation today around what other things are going on. We hear a lot of AI, what's really happening down at the street. What are some insights that you might maybe take back to your organization? That's what I hope to share, all through the lens of doing this for many years, across many industries, working with all the major tech players that you probably know in the space. So glad to be on with everyone. Thanks so much, Drew.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing our screen here and kind of dive right into it, why we're here today. Like I was saying earlier, a lot of our customers come to us and say, I've got ownership and control of my numbers. I've set up some really unique features to enhance my CX experience with my contact center. Now what? It seems like just today I opened my inbox and I've got 4 or 5 marketing emails talking about the latest AI technology that I should be looking at. And we get asked a lot of questions. Mike, I kind of wanted to ask you, what areas within AI are enterprise businesses leveraging for their contact center or CX experience that are providing the quickest and biggest lift to that experience?
Sure. Well, I think I will answer your question, but let me give you a little context on this. The drivers around this for contact center and AI are not any different than they've been for the last 20 plus years, right? Which are, you guys probably have initiatives around, hey, we want to improve our customer experience. Hey, we want to transform our business, which means, do things more efficiently often, right? Creating efficiencies, cost efficiencies. I want to scale the business more effectively. I want to open up new revenue streams with my customer, right? These are all things that all stuff that's been around ever since businesses have been around, right? So the drivers for the sort of AI in the contact center aren't really that new. It's just, wow, there's some new stuff. Like, how do I leverage that? And so AI effectively in the contact center is a lot of amped up automation, right? Automation creates efficiencies. Efficiencies equal either cost savings or revenue generation for you in the business, right? So it's helpful to think about. So that's kind of the backdrop to all this. I think it's helpful
Sure.
to think about the context, like where is it impacting right now, and where are people getting the bang for their buck on, like, to think of it in 2 buckets, because this is one of the challenges with all this is you hear the buzzword of AI and like, what does that mean? And there's generative AI and there's regular AI. AI is not new. What's new is the proliferation of generative AI, right? Which is a newer way of doing this, where it's generating its own content. You're not having to program every single old AI, which still exists and is very useful, right? You would configure sort of all the outcomes, pre-configure them, right, type of things. Now you can have generative AI take all this sample of data, these LLMs, and consume and give you kind of more of a custom generated output. And I'll give you an example of where that's happening in the contact center all the time. I bet right now, if you have your agents or your CSRs or whatever you call your contact center representatives taking notes, you probably have a wide range of how notes are done, right? Like some do it shorthand. Like some have all this crazy punctuation. Some probably give really good details and answer things you wish you had data on across the whole company. A generative AI application in the contact center is like agent summarization now. So you've got all of this conversation, whether that's a phone call or whether that's a chat or an email or SMS. That's both parties that's the agent answering, talking to it. That's the customer sharing their concerns, their all these emotions. Are they happy? Are they sad? All these things. You can turn that into structured data if it's voice and then analyze it. And then generative AI can generate like a quick summary of the notes, right? And then the agent can like accept it, edit it, or it just automatically pushes into the system of record or into the contact center platform. So it's like a very basic example of that. And we start seeing this now, right, Drew, on like enterprise communications with like meeting notes and summarization of things, and you get an email after. Like we're seeing this in other parts,
Yep.
non-contact center. Same thing in the contact center. So there's sort of like that what I gave you is an example of what we call like the company facing, right? Like that's not, the customer isn't feeling that AI. It's internal to the customer. The agent is using it in that case. There's other ones that are company facing. Other agent assist, maybe like I'm an agent and I'm talking with someone and the AI is listening to what's going on or reading the chat and saying, hey, here's a knowledge article, or hey, you should talk about this offer, this promotion for them based on what the conversation's going. Kind of the next best action type of things. And then there's also sort of like all this analytics and compliance and automating QA around all this data. So that's all sort of company facing, we call it, right? Behind the scenes of the customer, helping with AI to the contact center operations, agents, those running the business, the contact center. The other side is probably what people think of most when they think of AI, which is the customer facing side. If I had $1 for every time everyone told me like their horror story on an IVR, or just hey, I've tried to navigate this menu and you're like operator agent help,
All
right?
the time.
All the time, right? And so people are somewhat traumatized by that, like the old school ways of doing self-service, which is the other side, this customer facing side of AI. How do I allow my customers to get the help they need without me having to put them in queue and make them wait and do all this stuff? Like let them get it quickly. And if I can do that through an automated way, it's cheaper for me as the company. And if the customer gets what they need and they're happy, great. The problem is it's often been cheaper for the company, horrible experience for the customer, right? But
Sure.
this is where there's a ton of potential, right? Is that customer facing side. In simple form, it's basically voice virtual agents, right? The ability to have a conversation like you and I are having, Drew, but hey, I need help checking this. I need help. What's tracking that? I need to schedule this. I need to reschedule. Instead of doing that with a human, I'm doing that with software, a machine, right? That's got the AI underpinnings to be able to be effective in handling that need. And then there's the digital side, the same thing. Maybe we're more familiar with that too, right? Chat bots, that whole kind of thing. That can be like a partial part of my journey, or maybe that's the front end, right? I think sometimes people think like this customer side, is it all or nothing? Like, no, we have lots of customers that like the first use cases of this are, hey, we need to gather information to like authenticate and validate certain things rather than us having them wait in queue for 5 minutes. Then they get an agent, and then the agent's like, thanks for waiting. Can I validate this, and this? And then they jump into it, having them while they wait do some of that validation. It's just a basic example, right? And then when they come in, the agent gets that information and is like, hey, just want to confirm them. Great. And then they jump in. So you think of like the handle time goes down, the queue goes down. So the customer doesn't have to wait as long because they're not taking time with people. So those are sort of like the two buckets of the customer facing in the company facing aspects of AI. It's There's not like a single winner right now, Drew, of like
Sure.
this one is the one that everyone's doing. It depends. What I would say is initially when sort of ChatGPT kind of exposed like generative AI to the masses, everybody sort of gravitated really quickly towards the self-service. And then you started seeing some of these like early things where like, oh, somebody gave a truck away for free, or this airline did this really bad thing. And then people are like, well, maybe we should slow down. Let's not do that one. And so I would say both happen. Some companies that are really risk averse maybe go towards the company facing stuff because it's more controlled environment. And
Sure.
then the customer facing might be part two, but we see both of them. That's just some context I'll add.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you. That kind of leads into my next question. With, I mean, generative AI is relatively, I would call it a new technology. And we're seeing a lot of advances. I mean, now I even saw last week we're caught super intelligence that's on its way. But what are some areas within that AI and CX space that you think are going to see the most growth in the next 1 to 3 years as we continue to see this AI boom?
This is an interesting concept because what I would say is there's a huge, like, if you're on this call right now and you're like, Mike, we are crawling in technology. Like we're not running, we're not jogging, we're certainly not sprinting. Guess what? Most of the market is not. So here's what I'd say, Drew, is there's a lot of customers that actually have to build like the foundation first. Or concurrently build the foundation of things like they're on a very legacy system, right? Maybe and you can put AI on that, and that's one way to do it. But maybe there's a lot of bad data, and if you want to build your own LLMs and stuff, you got to do this. So there's a lot of people where like the near term upside will be like moving to a cloud-based contact center, having integration with CRM, EHR, ERP for kind of more comprehensive customer journey, getting omni-channel rolled out, right? Like I still talk to dozens of companies a month where they are just voice. And there's
Sure.
nothing wrong with that. Voice is a great channel, obviously, right? Like that's a massive channel, but they haven't even like gotten to digital channels, or maybe they have, but they're not real, they're disparate and there's no like cohesion to the voice. So there's no real kind of, somebody goes from one channel to another, they're like, who are you? What are you trying to get help with? So like some of those basic blocking and tackling will be the big needle mover for a lot of businesses, while they also start dabbling in AI. And I think that's the important thing is like get some of the blocking and tackling, work on that, but you can also dabble. Because a lot of this stuff I've talked about, if you get into products and product names, a lot of that stuff can go to wherever you're at. Like you can put those things onto where you're at, or they can be part of the overall solution. So there's lots of ways to getting there. You don't have to have, but I think a lot of companies probably have more upside to hit outside of AI, just with some of the basic things they can enhance. In
Sure.
addition to that, let's hit some of the AI. And so where will we see that? I think in the near term, it's a lot of that company facing, excuse me, stuff. It's the how do I empower agents to be more knowledgeable and be more effective, right? Because what's big and disruptive is completely going from like agent conversations to complete self-service. That's a big change, right? You want to do that right because that's your brand, that's your experience. So when you do that, you typically do in that small use cases. But even before that, or concurrent with that, maybe you could say, my agents are already helping customers. How do I create more efficiency in that? How do I make my agents be able to handle things? And it's things like how can AI layer across my knowledge bases to offer up information faster? How can I do that real time? How can I have this agent assist capability that helps me train up agents faster so they go from onboarding to proficiency and make it up 6 weeks instead of 12 weeks? Those things are like improving kind of current processes versus completely changing them. So I think near term, a lot of the benefit of this hits on that company facing side, the summarization, the agent assist type of stuff. It's the another huge one, right? Is contact centers have always had QA, right? Like, how are
Mhm.
your customers doing? What's the voice of the customer? How are my agents performing? Are they being compliant with things we want them to be? AI and automation have the ability to now have you do that across all of your interactions all the time. And so now you can have your QA people focused on really leveling up and coaching people versus just hunting and pecking for like data points to find. And that's massive. So I think there's a lot of that. And again, it's completely sort of transparent to the customer. It's sort of taking already current state and just making it a lot better. That feels a lot less disruptive to customers. And it is, I think, to some extent. So that's, I think, the near term. And then it's everyone kind of gets those things done. Then it becomes more of the what about self-service? Because then it's like my agents aren't gonna. Some people say, hey, look, agents will go away. You'll just have robots helping. I'm not of that camp. I think that's pretty extreme. Maybe that happens. I don't know. If it happens, I hope I'm not on the planet anymore, because that sounds scary to me.
Yeah.
But how do you have where customers do want to have good self-service capabilities, but then when they get to an agent, it's a very knowledgeable, very very skilled agent that can help me with things that are more complex. That's the perfect balance, in my opinion. So I think it'll be people then, how do I get those use cases? And I think that's a longer curve to get to, because you're talking stuff that impacts the actual customer experience. Some companies, let's be clear, don't really care about that. That's a shame. Most do. Most care. Like that contact center agent or that interaction with a chatbot is like the front door to your business, to the world for a lot of things. Like you don't want to rush that or do that wrong. That has really
Exactly.
possibly negative experience, terrible consequences. So
I hear you. Yeah, well, kind of leads me in like AI's everywhere today. I'm inundated with every day. I'm watching football games on TV. There's celebrities telling me I need to leverage AI in my daily life.
yep.
And it's so much AI noise. I mean, what are some challenges we're seeing when evaluating AI? Because there's so many solutions out there. Which ones do we prioritize to look at? And how do we cut through that noise? And also too, I mean, we're getting a lot of technologies with what I call out of the box AI included, whether it be, just kind of efficiency enhancements with summarizations, note taking, maybe an AI assistant to help you write emails, things like that. But is that AI enough to kind of move the needle, or are there specific kind of AI-centric solutions that we could add on to our cloud contact center or UCaaS or CCaaS solution to really kind of move the needle there quickly?
Yeah, it's sort of the classic like all in one or best of breed sort of approach to this AI conversation. And so it's the worst answer, but it's the right answer, is it depends, right?
Yeah.
Like it really does depend. For some customers, they've moved to a cloud contact center solution, for example, or they're integrated with, say, a Salesforce. There's all these AI capabilities within that. And if the relationship's good, if the use cases and the product capabilities fit, awesome. Then that's probably a great place to start. Sometimes customers start there, and then after several years go, hey, I think I've kind of outgrown this. We're pushing the limits, and that's not quite, because what you get typically, right, is you maybe get the capabilities of the all-in-one, but it's not maybe as robust and rich in feature functionality, and that might not work for a customer. That's why it depends. Or maybe they're not on a platform that really has a lot of strong stuff. Like we have customers that come to us that are on like a legacy premise of Avaya or a Cisco, and they're like, it's so daunting and we can't make this big change, rip and replace, like, but we need to do some of these things. Can we do it? And the answer is yeah, you totally can. You can absolutely put stuff on top of where you're at today. Now, there's pros and cons of that, right? Now you've got another system and interface and things like that, but that's why it depends. There's not a silver bullet answer. I mean, that's kind of why we exist, is helping customers through those conversations, because it's tough. Like the market would say, if you look at the market right now, you would think you're the last person on the planet, and and if you're like me, you're like, I'm learning this stuff all the time still, and everyone seems like they're like doing all this advanced stuff. The reality is most are probably like you feel. There's just all this noise out there.
Yep.
Everything's super crowded. Like the market's crowded. Everyone's AI. Everything's AI. But at the core, it's like you can build your own stuff. You can buy things, and those buy things can be like part of a broader platform, or they can be sort of best of breed. And it's like, you guys are all smart. You know what this is. If it's best of breed, typically the pros that's all they do. They're really, really good at it, but it's just a piece. And there's other things needed. And how does it interplay with other things? Right. So that's one sort of just challenge to this, is just all the noise. I mean, you go to like any industry event, it's all AI, AI. Everyone's sick of it already. Like
Oh
what does
yeah.
that even mean? What does that mean? It's just like overwhelming. The other challenge is, we touched on this too, is like there's not really, like, definitions aren't widely understood and known or really standardized. So like, we talked AI versus generative AI. Like AI has been around in the contact center for a long time. Generative AI is the newer piece, but we all just say AI. What do we really mean with that?
Yep.
Are we really, I don't, LLMs and all these other terms and things, right, that get thrown around. And I think sometimes we're clear on what we mean, and sometimes someone hears that and thinks something else. It's not like, we say the sky is blue. We all have a pretty good sense of what that means. Like with the AI, there's not that same level of when somebody says a word, we're all like, yep, I'm on this. Like agent assist is a good example. The productization of this stuff is confusing. What does agent assist mean? It could be that auto summarization at the end of a call. It could be that real time giving them stuff. It could be stuff that ties in with knowledge management and surfacing up articles. There's what is agent assist? It's not a standard term. I
Sure.
think that creates all this noise, right? And everybody
Yeah.
calls their product a different thing, and everyone says, "Oh, well, this is agent assist," but it has a different, slightly different definition of what someone else's agent assist is. That's like super confusing for people. I spend, you know, at least 8 hours a day on this every single day, just about, and it's muddy still, right? There's
Yeah.
just a lot of mud. So that's one. So those are sort of some of the challenges I think outside of the, best of breed, build off the platform. It depends. Then you've got all this external noise. Then you have this internal noise. I'm sure if you guys are like even internal in our company, right? It's like, do we have the security and framework and policies to do some of these initiatives around AI, right? Because you
Hmm.
don't want to just go cavalier. You don't want to be that airline company or that, that dealership that like, oh, this kind of went off the rails. We probably should have thought about this before we rolled something out, kind of cavalier. There's also just this kind of risk aversion sense too of like, we don't want to mess up, right? We don't want to mess up. We don't want to miss out, but we also don't want to mess up. And for a lot of people, the fear of messing up is stronger than the fear of missing out right now. Um, and so those are problems. And there's a lot of stakeholders too, right? Like who owns initiatives like this, right?
Yeah.
The reality is it's probably co-owned. You've got security and infosec people, you've got IT and infrastructure people, and you've got kind of business people, right? Contact center operations, customer service, etc. That's a lot of people, and you need to get stakeholders together. So obviously these are areas we help, but those are things that for companies are friction points. Like I don't know
Yeah.
where to start. I don't know how to. I know I need to do this. I don't know where to do it. My CEO says they went to this conference or they read this great article in Forbes, and we need to do this, but like from the idea to the action is a lot of messiness. How do I go?
I hear
So
you. Yeah. Which is a perfect segue. For those attending today, InflowCX was gracious enough to share with you and offer you a complimentary AI impact assessment to help you cut through that noise. So, Mike, maybe you could explain a little bit about what goes into that.
yeah, I think the biggest challenge we see is people don't know where to start or how to prioritize this. Like I know this sounds good. I love the ideas of that. I could see the impact, but like if I do this, is that the right thing or is this a better thing? And what we typically do, so this is like a service we typically offer for, it's 10 grand, 15 grand in that range because it's quite a bit of time on our end. We'll basically take a sample of interactions that are a representative sample of voice or digital interactions. So that gives us data then on what are your customers calling about, saying, what's their tone, what are all these components to the customer side of the equation, and then what's the agent doing, right? So like you can measure things like how much time are they putting people on hold and breaks in the conversation. Maybe there's agent assist opportunity, and you can measure all of that and say, based on all this data, where do we have use cases maybe for self-service and things there, or agent assist, or maybe there's QA and analytics opportunities, and there's usually a mix of those. But and then what's the level of effort doing some of those things, so you can kind of find that right intersection of impact high, effort low, and then go from there. And that's a place that we've helped a lot of customers sort of start on a path. So at least they're like, good, now I've got some data and confidence of what I'm doing. I know I can do any of these things and it will be positive, but is it a lot of work or is it a lot of cost or a lot of risk? Now you can get some confidence that you've got the effort is on the lower end of the scale, hopefully, and the impact is on the higher end of the scale. And start somewhere because this is very much a journey. And so this is something that for talked with Drew and said, look, this is what a lot of customers are benefiting from. Like let's talk about this on this too. So if you're like, hey, this is cool, this is interesting, I know where to start, this would be a great place to start. We can give you kind of an example of what this looks like, walk you through a readout. And again, we're doing this complimentary for customers with the NumHub team because we've had great success driving value for our customers, and this is kind of another step in that journey together as companies working together. So I'll pass it back to you, Drew. I don't know if I probably butchered that, but that's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, what an amazing offer. I know a lot of our customers will be looking to take advantage of that. We will be sending out follow-up communication to this webinar. Please reach out to myself or anyone on our team about this offer. We can connect you with the team over at InflowCX to get that started. But it looks like we're pretty much wrapped up here on time again. Thank you all for coming, Mike. That was super insightful. Thank you so much. Can't wait to have you on future webinars to learn more because we could spend a lot of time on this. But thank you all for attending today. We look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, thanks, Drew. Bye, everyone.
Have a great one. Take care.